All right. Good afternoon. Thank y'all for everybody. Thank you for bearing with us, trying to accommodate as many as we could. Just for those that may be listening outside, they're working on getting the monitors on the third floor to broadcast our committee hearing here today. So if you have signed up to speak and you are not in this room, we will call you and we will sound for you if you're standing out in the hall. Want to give everybody a chance to be heard. Now, a few ground rules. We've got a 2-hour limit from when we start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everybody testifying about a minute. That way we can get through everyone that wants to speak. So anyhow, sorry about that, but with the amount of people we have signed up, plus time for the bill author and our 2-hour limit, that's what we got to do. So anyways, I'll open this up in prayer real quick if you bow your heads. Almighty Lord, the source of light and strength, we implore your blessings on these proceedings here today. Help us, Lord, guide us, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. We have before us now House Bill 441, Representative Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. HB 441 LC number 461024. Breakdown, pretty much overview of the bill. Tens of thousands of babies, made the image of God, continue to be murdered in our state every year, all within the bounds of a current law that must be changed. We already have laws in Georgia that make murder a crime and create civil liability for wrongful death. This bill simply ensures that those same laws protecting the lives of people after birth equally protect the lives of people before birth. Section 1 contains legislative findings. While not legally binding, these describe some of the constitutional foundation of the bill, as well as providing a general summary of its effects. It may be worth reading these in full. Section 2 makes it clear that a mother forced into an abortion by a threat or violence against her would not be guilty of a crime. While the first paragraph appears to be deleted, it is just reworded. Legislative Council said that was the best way to do it in order to split it into 2 paragraphs. Section 3, this is the name of the bill, the Georgia Prenatal Equal Protection Act. Section B, this is the heart of the bill. Georgia already has a law against homicide, which makes it illegal to willfully cause the death of a human being. This cause makes it protect all human beings, whether born yet or not. The effect of this simple amendment also makes it illegal to encourage or pressure a mother to abort. When we're looking at subsection C, the party to crime under OCGA 16220, subsection C, this makes clear that all existing due process protection of those accused of homicide of a born person would also apply to the accused of homicide of an unborn person as such. A person is presumed innocent until the state proves beyond a reasonable doubt that the person is guilty. A mistake to fact defense, a person who misunderstands a material fact of what they are doing is not guilty if such negates the existence of mental state required by the offense. Coercion defense, a person who commits a criminal act under threat of serious physical violence or death is not guilty. Law of parties, everyone willfully involved with the homicide can be prosecuted, including an abortionist and anyone who pressures the mother into the abortion. Immunities, for example, prosecutors could grant immunity to mothers to testify against the abortionist or other clemencies. The parole board can exercise exclusive clemency for commute, reduce the sentence of a complete pardon a person even if the person has been lawfully convicted and sentenced to Georgia Constitution Article 4, 2, Para 2. Section Life of the Mother cause. The bill does not apply to the intentional injury of death of an unborn child. When resulting from the undertaking of procedure to save the life of a mother when accomplished by reasonable steps, if available to save the life of her unborn child. The bill does not apply to a spontaneous miscarriage. Section E, this gives the state attorney general concurrent jurisdiction to prosecute in the event local prosecutors refuse to enforce the law. There is precedent for the Georgia under the human trafficking law, and that is 16546H. Subsection F, the bill does not repeal existing laws regulating abortion. This clause just ensures that if there is any confusion, the bill prevails. Mr. Chairman, subject G, this makes it extremely clear that the bill is not for and cannot be used to retroactively prosecute people for abortions that took place in the past before the bill goes into effect. Section 4 and 5, these sections remove language allowing for abortion from assault and battery. The difference between assault and battery is that assault is a threat of an attempted harm of another person, and battery involves actual physical contact. Section 6, this is part of the bill, provides for equal protection of the civil wrongful death law, moving the lines of protection from heartbeat to fertilization. Section 7, as you know, but for the benefit of everyone else, this is a standard section in every Georgia bill, does not actually remove existing laws from the book. It simply means that the bill supersedes any existing law that are in different conflict with. One of the things, Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow me, the personhood of sanctity of human life. Just to give you a couple of lines within what I have here. Whereas, as the Bible affirms, the personhood, sanctity, dignity, and value of every human being from the moment of our individual creation, as evidenced by the fact that we are created in the image of God, or known by God while we're being formed in the womb. Genesis 1:26-27, James 3:9, Jeremiah 1:5, Luke 1:13. God alone is the creator and giver of life, and the one distinguishing feature between humanity and the rest of creation is that God created human beings in his image and likeness. With that, members of the human family originate, unfortunately, from the laws of nature, and nature, God who created human life in his image and protected it with the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." All innocent human life must be respected and protected regardless of race, sex, age, condition of dependency, regardless of manner of conception or creation, and all persons are equal in measurable worth. And that's the start of the bill, and basically just a few comments on top of that, sir.
Okay.
And this is Bradley Pierce, the author of the bill, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
and members of the committee. And Bradley is here with me as an attorney that understands a lot of the questions that when they're asked a certain way, I'd love him to do as we do in many committees, to have the opportunity to respond.
Okay, we'll make a determination. You'll get questions from members of the committee. If it's legal in nature, then, we'll let you chime in. Where are you from, sir?
I'm from Texas.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. Number 5, is that Representative Kendrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me? Is the mic on? Okay. So I have a few questions. The first one, am I limited by how many I can ask?
I mean, just keep in mind, we got a 2-hour limit, and we got a lot of people signed up for and against this
Okay,
bill. So
thank
just
you.
remember that, members of the committee.
All right, thank you. I'll try to narrow this down. The first question is on line 16 that talks about life and liberty. So I'm confused because on 26 and 27, you say that the current provisions could be interpreted to allow a person to pressure, in quotes, a pregnant mother to abort her child. So I'm trying to understand how we hear about a bill on life where it seems that we are diminishing the liberty of someone to give advice to someone who might need an abortion, or somebody who has a right to have an abortion, because again, it's none of our business. So help me reconcile how we are saying in one sentence life and liberty, but we're only focusing on life.
Well, basically, what I understand you're asking is your choice of reasoning with your question. However, the part that you asked about is if someone forces you into an abortion, or they hold a gun, knife, or any way they put physical strength to make you abort a child, this gives the opportunity basically that you're not held responsible for that. And that's basically the answer to that.
Okay, that's not what the bill says. But my second question is on line 26, what current provisions and in either the Georgia Constitution or the Constitution of the United States could be interpreted to allow a person to pressure someone into a pregnant mother into aborting her child? Specifically, what provisions in the Constitution?
Bradley, could be.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
If I may, member, thank you. It's not illegal to pressure someone. There's no law that prohibits pressuring someone up to the threat of violence, right? There's no law that prohibits someone from pressuring someone to do something that's legal for them to do. So because the current Georgia law allows for abortion up to 6 weeks and for the mother up till birth, it's not illegal for someone to pressure a woman into that. There's no prohibition in law that restricts that.
Okay, that's inconsistent with what he just said, because he said it was up to somebody putting a gun up to your head. So I'm confused about those two things being inconsistent. But yes or no, is this bill trying to be a total ban on abortion, even though under HB 481 we have 6 weeks, even though it's an atrocious bill, heartbeat bill? Is this bill meant to totally ban abortion from the time of conception, notwithstanding what we have on the books?
We basically went through, as you well know, basically the heartbeat bill, I guess, is what you would be referring to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was an adjective description word thrown in with that. With that, the heartbeat bill in 2019, we went through the procedures here, and we broke down that bill to pass. This bill would continue further with pro-life, and for the people that stand for pro-life, their choice, and basically starts at conception. That's what it says. Fertilized egg, and at conception, life starts.
Okay, so to answer my question, yes, this would be a total ban. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Pretty much, would you agree? I would say yes, sir.
This bill provides equal protection from the moment of fertilization.
So it would be a total ban. Okay. My next question is on line 56 and 57, talking about the undertaking of procedures to save the life of the mother when accompanied by reasonable steps. Are you familiar with the case of Amber Thurman and Candy Miller, where they could not take reasonable steps because of the draconian bill that we currently have on the books? Because the doctors were afraid to take steps because of what the things that we have on the books.
Well, I'm going to defer, but I'm going to answer from what I know of that. And you said they could not. Could you give me a little bit more definition or answer to why they could not?
They would not, because 481 criminalizes anybody who tries to help past the 6-week heartbeat bill. And so we have a provision in that bill that says, life for the life of the mother, but you have to show that you're dying before you get help. And so they were dying before they got help, and so they died.
And what other circumstances, if I may ask, happened?
I mean,
are we getting the whole
bill.
story?
I'm not trying to limit
No,
women's-
but you said this is where you're coming from, your evidence. I have not read anything about that. So in all fairness, you're putting something out there that you didn't provide me with the language to read.
I didn't write the bill.
And well,
you wrote,
no,
you wrote the bill.
I wrote the bill. You asked the question.
But
with that, I'll let Pierce, if you want to answer that a little bit more with her.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with what you're talking about. So in that case, there's certainly malpractice that was committed in not providing her proper care at the proper time. This bill would not in any way have applied to that situation. Her child was already dead. And the report said that it was actually inconclusive why the doctors withheld treatment or did not do the D&C for 20 hours, but her child had already passed. There's nothing in current Georgia law, or certainly nothing in this bill, that would have prevented them from providing proper treatment. They just committed malpractice, which sadly happens.
Okay, I think you're missing the point about doctors and accompanied by reasonable steps. The issue is that doctors don't know how to interpret these laws that we're coming up with, and we're preventing them from issuing care because they don't know what reasonable steps are. They don't know when the mother is, when at the point that the mother is dying, that they need to step in. So this is obviously an issue for me.
Representative Kendrick, I'll give time for discussion.
Okay.
Just remember that question period right now.
Okay, thank you. Line 59. Where else in the code is the Attorney General given concurrent authority to prosecute cases? Under what other crimes?
For human,
Go ahead.
may I? Thank you. 16-5-46H for human trafficking.
That's the only place in the code that there's concurrent authority between the prosecuting attorneys and AGs.
That's the one that I have before me.
So you don't know if that's the only place in the code.
As far as I'm aware, it's the only place.
And where else in the code does the Attorney General have the authority to employ peace officers for these crimes?
If I may. The language here is taken almost verbatim from 16-5-46H.
Which is the human trafficking.
Right.
And then my last question, hopefully, is lines 79 through 85. And lines 96 through 102. So just in case my statement was not cleared, lines 79 through 85 and 96 through 102 would essentially take our 6-week ban that we have now and institute a total abortion ban starting at fertilization by taking out lines 79 through 85 and 96 through 102. In your legal opinion or non-legal opinion, am I interpreting that correctly?
I would say that these are not the lines that provide, these are existing lines related to assault and battery that are being repealed here, but the part related to homicide is under Section 3.
Section 4.
Section 4 is related to assault on an unborn child.
Okay. Okay. So this is in furtherance of what you're trying to do, which is move the timeline back for assault, for battery, and murder to fertilization. To
It repeals the provisions that deny equal protection. Yes.
That's not what I asked. What I asked was, do those provisions move the timeline for assault and battery and murder from 6 weeks to the time of fertilization?
There would be, the existing laws on homicide, assault, and battery would apply from the moment of fertilization.
Okay. No more questions?
All right. Number 7, Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Was a doctor consulted with this legislation about the language in it?
We have a doctor that will speak here if allowed here in a little bit
That wasn't my question. Were they consulted on the language?
on the bill.
Many doctors have reviewed this language.
Okay,
Yes.
and so you do, isn't it true that no one can know when an egg has actually been fertilized? There's no way to physically know that the moment it's fertilized, correct?
That could be an assumption. I would say God knows, and He created us, as we said, in His own image. And through that, this country was founded on Christian values, and I take that as God's word. So with that, that's... Yeah.
Medically, it's impossible to know physically whether an egg has been, the moment.
I'm not a doctor.
So a total ban would mean that if a woman had a miscarriage, she would be subject to peace officers investigating her miscarriage. Because how are you going to prove whether it was an abortion or a miscarriage? We're already having problems with that. Am I correct?
I have a daughter who had a miscarriage. It's a sad event, and no,
It is.
she would not be criminalized. And basically, I think you could speak to that even better. That in there it says we're not going after anybody with a miscarriage. Is that correct?
Correct. It specifically said as it doesn't apply to spontaneous miscarriage, and there would be a presumption of innocence always.
But is that person going to have to go and prove that presumption of innocence if someone doesn't believe them? How can you ensure that?
That's the whole point of
And
it.
you're right, it is absolutely sad. It's also sad when you find out that your fetus is incompatible with life. It is devastating. It was one of the most devastating times in my life.
And I've dealt with that.
And
so
doctors
you're right.
were told me that the dream of my child was going to die either inside of me or within minutes outside my body, and it would be suffering with organs outside its body. And I saw, I'm a Christian, that it was more merciful. They also told me it's risky, because I was over 35, to continue carrying a pregnancy, because it is very hard on a woman's body. Very hard. And I had other little kids, toddlers, at home. And they said, do not risk your life for something that is not going to happen when you have other kids that need you at home. This bill is putting every traumatized woman in a position of worrying about whether they're going to be prosecuted for a miscarriage or this decision. And now, what is the jurisdiction of these peace officers? How are they going to be paid for? What is the definition for that in this bill?
Basically, I can't tell you the answer. We have peace officers already. Not that we would go out like certain administrations and hire thousands and thousands more. I don't think that would happen. I do, and I am sorry for your medical situation, and I'm glad that it worked out and you're okay. I really am. I've seen several of these. I personally have seen several. I have witnessed most miscarriages are at their house, from the people that I have talked to in tears that came to me and said, I found out in the toilet. I found out before I made it to the toilet. So I understand. But with that being said, in all due respect, proven fact of, let's say, the lady's life, the mother's life, and the child, it's under 0.001% that we have a record that this happens. And with that, if Bradley, if he's allowed, you want to expound on that, I would appreciate it if you have anything.
Well, regarding the peace officers, that's something that, again, regarding human trafficking, the AG has the authority to do, and so this would just extend that.
Are you aware that there's a 24-year-old Tifton woman right now behind bars because of a miscarriage?
No,
Have you read that news story?
No,
Just
ma'am,
happened in the last couple of days.
Without this, there's basically the miscarriage. I would ask why. Have no idea about it. Haven't read about it, but I would like to know. There must be other circumstances, but without knowing, I couldn't really comment on that.
So there is no exception, tell me if I'm right or wrong, for rape or incest in this bill. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. So, wow. And
The unborn-
do you know anyone that's been raped?
I do.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very, very tragic. However, they went ahead and had the child because the child, why should they be murdered for the sin of a person, or the sin that this child can grow up and have the right to live? And that's basically the way I looked at it. And the people that, 2 ladies I know that were raped, they had their children, and they have 3 other children, one of them and 2 the other. And with that, the whole concept was this child knows no different. They're loved and they're alive, and that is.
Do you understand that those women will now be forced to co-parent
No,
with
this
their
hap-
rapist? Where in the bill does it exclude that?
This basically says that this goes back to nothing before the bill, correct?
Even
Right.
even 481 require, if anyway, okay, I'll let somebody else take over.
Representative Neal, I will come back to you on your question. We got a lot of people that have signed up to speak. Would you be willing to hold your question until after we get through some of these witnesses? Okay, thank you. All right, gentlemen, if y'all slide over to those last 2 seats on the end there to allow room for those who want to come and speak. Thank you. The author and your legal counsel, if y'all move over there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you were talking to them. Apologize.
Okay, first up, we have Coleman Boyd. Coleman Boyd, are you here with us? Yes, sir. All right, come on up. And remember the time limits imposed. I'll give you a minute just due to the very volume that we have of speakers here today. Yeah. Come on down. And if you don't mind, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from and if you're with an organization.
I will.
I won't count that towards your time.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Got my hands full here. I want to bring my sweet daughter up here to introduce her today, too. Good morning, Chairman Smith and distinguished members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to briefly speak to you today. My name is Coleman Boyd. I come before you today as an ER physician and as a father of 13 children, 9 natural and 4 adopted. I've been practicing medicine for nearly 25 years. From my earliest studies of embryology, we learned that when a sperm and cell come together, it forms a one-cell zygote.
Where are you from, sir?
Bolton, Mississippi. I apologize. In that instant, a human person is formed and contains every possibility of his or her future. I also took the Hippocratic Oath. I don't think they take it much anymore, but I took it. And in that, I gave an oath to do no harm, first do no harm. And also I gave an oath to not give a plenary to any woman to cause an abortion. That was the same oath that had been taken since 500 BC. In my obstetrics training, I learned that I'm always caring for 2 patients, the mother and the baby. This practice continues to this day in my practice in the emergency room. It's quite simple from a medical perspective. An elective abortion takes the life of an innocent human being, whether it occurs 2 days after fertilization or 6 weeks after fertilization or at 40 weeks as the child is being born. You're going to hear all kinds of discussion about this bill endangering women. As a physician, I've never seen a case where killing the child would save the life of a mother. When a mother's health is in jeopardy, we treat the mother and the child and deliver the baby when needed. We never kill it. I want to close by introducing my youngest daughter, Hadassah. She is the product of rape. Her 13-year-old mother was raped, and she came and lived with us, and she gave birth, and she was blessed to give this child life, and now she's the delight of our soul. She's the exception that everybody points to. She's not an exception. She's a glorious child. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, important question. No outbursts from, we keep decorum here. So, yep. You gotta, what about displays? Oh, okay. Members are allowed to have their display if they'd like. So, all right. Thank you for coming all the way from Mississippi.
Yes, sir.
Ole Miss or Mississippi State?
Both. Bioengineering at Mississippi State and then medical school at University of Mississippi Medical Center.
All right. You're confused.
So I'm both. I'm confused.
You're conflicted during the Egg Bowl, I see. All right. Thank you, sir. I see no questions.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, I have Jason Storms. If you'll introduce yourself, tell us where you're from.
My name is Jason Storms. I run the National Director of a pro-life ministry, Operation Save America. Been 35 years in the pro-life fight, and I'm from Melbourne, Florida, as of 4 months ago.
Go ahead.
We engage in a lot of political work and have been involved in this fight for many years, knocking doors. We've knocked doors in Georgia in key districts, mobilizing churches and voters, and so this is an issue that's very dear to our heart. I have 11 children. I have 8 daughters. The last thing that I want to do is take away the rights of women. Abortion is the killing of an innocent human being. We have problems in the society with violence, crime, irresponsible parenting. Foster care systems are filled up. In fact, violence against women and children have soared in the post-Roe America. Abortion didn't solve the problems of irresponsibility, violence, unwanted children. Abortion has perpetuated those problems. You cannot cure violence and irresponsibility with more acts of violence and irresponsibility, and abortion is an act of violence and irresponsibility. Mothers and fathers have a duty to protect their children. You're going to hear testimonies today from a lot of women who are going to come in here and say that this is a fundamental right that they have to essentially terminate their pregnancy, kill their child. Every single one of those women, they're going to get up and say that, including this lovely lady here. They had a mother that protected them.
Your
a mother that
time's
sacrificed
expired.
for
Hold
them.
on just a second. I'll
I'm
give
sorry.
you a chance to
Is that what that little
conclude.
jingle was? I'm sorry.
I'll give you a chance to conclude.
Yes,
but
sir.
Go ahead and wrap it up.
My encouragement to you all would be to recognize that this is the most important issue facing our society today. It cuts to the very heart of who we are as a people. Do we really believe in the fundamental right to life? And do we believe that moms and dads have a duty to protect their children? That is the glue of a healthy society, that we recognize we're all made in God's image and life has to be protected. So I would encourage you all to display courage. You can move public opinion. Don't follow public opinion. You can move, you can persuade the culture. You have the ability to articulate this issue persuasively and to move public opinion to follow and support this. We have to protect these innocent children.
Thank you,
in our
Mr.
culture.
Storms. Appreciate you.
Thank
Be
you so
careful
much,
on
sir.
the way
Bless
back
you.
to Florida.
Thank you, sir. Bless you.
And go Dogs. Massey, was that Gordon? Is there First Sergeant, could you see if there's a Massey Gordon? Massey Gordon outside. First name Massey, I think it's Gordon.
Holler real loud, ask for somebody named Massey, M-A-S-S-E-Y, Gordon. Sign up to speak.
All right. Next up, take Jeff Durbin. Is Jeff Durbin here? Come on up.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Representatives. My name is Pastor Jeff Durbin with End Abortion Now. It's an honor to speak to you today.
Where are you from?
Oh, Arizona, Phoenix,
Okay.
Arizona. Very simply, brothers and sisters, representatives, this bill says what is unassailable. What's in the womb is human from fertilization. That is a biblical fact, an unassailable biological fact. And all this bill does is it says what we say we believe as people who believe in life at fertilization, that what's in the womb deserves equal protection. This bill simply says this: every human being in Georgia from the moment of fertilization deserves to be equally protected. That's the simplicity of the bill. The problem we're seeing right now is the same problem we've seen in history. We did this in the past to our black brothers and sisters. We drew a circle around one group of people and said that, I know it's technically human, but it's not really a human, it's a black person, and so we can oppress them. And it wasn't until abolitionists stood up, Christians stood up and said, equal protection for my black brothers and sisters. We abolished slavery in the same way we need to abolish abortion, provide equal protection for every human being. God says in his word, cease to do evil, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless. I want to call you to do your duty before God. We're all going to answer to Christ one day for how we acted and responded on this very day. And I'm going to call you to be consistent with what you know to be true.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Be careful on your way back to Arizona. Yes. Hold on
Yes.
just a second. Oh, thank you. Representative Neal.
Yes, while I do appreciate people that are coming from out of state to support or be against this measure, is there a way we can prioritize the hardworking Georgians? I'm not sure if they outlined on the notes where they came from. And then also, too, is there a way that we can ensure we strike a balance so we don't run through all the time with all the people against, if we can get some support or just go back and forth as well, just for balance?
Well, let's see who's in here from Georgia. All right. Okay. I'll tell you what. You got a question for the witness? Okay. Stay right there, brother.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Representative
Hi, how are you?
Panich.
Good. I'm Esther Panich, and you're not from here, so I'll assume you don't know. But I'm the only Jewish representative in the state of Georgia. Judaism posits that the life of the mother is more important than the life of an unborn. Are you telling me that I don't have a right to my religious liberty?
Well, no, everyone would appeal to an ultimate authority over all of us. And one of the things that I respect and admire about Judaism is that we share the same scriptures, the Torah, the Talmud, and the Torah and the law of the prophets. And scripture does teach, without question, that from fertilization, all human life begins, and that we are uniquely made by God, created in the wombs of our mothers, and known by God. And so with that, Judaism, as well as Christianity, would teach that every human being must be protected and given equal justice. One of the laws of Moses that's repeated over and over is no partiality. We treat everybody equally. And the point that I was making, Representative, and I appreciate you asking the question, was the same point that can be used in terms of our Jewish brothers and sisters, where there was a time in history where there was a class of people that drew a circle around themselves, the Germans, the SS, and said that we can oppress our Jewish brothers and sisters, that we can treat them with abuse, we can kill them. My point, Representative, was that we've had this problem in history many times over, where a class of human beings says to another class of human beings, we can oppress you, we can kill you, we can murder you. And what we're saying with this bill is that every human being is made in God's image and deserves to be equally protected.
Sure.
Everyone valued, women, men, children.
I understand that, but Judaism does not posit that life begins at fertilization. It says that it's like water until 40 days. And the way you know this is look at Israel. Abortion is readily available and it's free. So please don't misstate what my religion tells me is my duty. If I am at risk, if my life is at risk, it may not only be suggested of me to have an abortion, but required of me to have an abortion, because a life in being, my life, takes priority over something that has not been born yet. So how do I exercise my religious liberty under your bill if it was adopted?
Well, thank you for the question, Representative, but the answer to two of those main questions, the first one is that when I was referring to Judaism, the Jewish religion is based upon the Old Testament scriptures, the law and the prophets.
I am well aware,
And
yes.
There's no question that the view that came later you're describing is not in the law and the prophets, it's later Jewish tradition. That's just the point I want to make to that. The next point is that this particular bill says nothing towards the case that you're bringing up where your life is in danger. This bill is about equal protection for all human beings in the womb. It's about the preservation of life. If your life were in danger because of a pregnancy, in very rare instances, very infinitesimally small
I'm not just talking about
instances-
physically, emotionally, psychologically. Those are exceptions to which allow a Jewish woman to have an abortion if they need one.
If I may respond to that, that's a very good point. We wouldn't, in our current justice system, allow a woman who murders her 6-year-old child by drowning him in the bathtub to get away with the argument, I was emotionally struggling, I didn't feel like I could care for this baby.
You know that's not the same thing. I'm talking about things, an unborn child compared to
in the womb.
let me finish my question, please. An unborn child versus a life in being, which would be the mother. So under your bill, could I exercise my religious liberty if I felt, along in consultation with my rabbi, that I needed an abortion, and my doctor, that I needed an abortion for survival, whether that's physical survival or mental survival?
And the point I was making to you is that the human being in the womb
This is something you can answer with a yes or no. Under my
I'm trying.
hypothetical and your bill, could I exercise my religious liberty?
We don't believe that anybody has the right to, with malice of forethought, take the life of another human being in an unjustified manner. So equal protection for all humans means that nobody can say to another human being, I'm going to take your life with malice of forethought in an unjustified manner.
Okay, so your answer is no. I can't, if I believe that
You can't kill your baby, no.
Okay. So Jews and other religions who don't believe in your version of when life starts are screwed under your bill,
Well,
right?
all biological science teaches that life begins at fertilization. That's an unassailable, indisputable fact. It's incontrovertible. It's a biological fact. But I appreciate the question.
For the sake of moving on, I think both may just have to agree to disagree on them finer points. If you want to talk offline, I respect the member and the gentleman from.
I have no problem disagreeing with someone
Yeah, I know,
until
I just
they try to put their version, their values on me.
Represent Panix.
Yes,
What I'm
Mr.
saying
Chairman.
is, I don't think there's going to be consensus between
I
you
agree.
and the gentleman on this. So, if you don't mind, we'll move on.
Thank you for the question, Representative.
Number 5, Representative.
Thank you. You mentioned about your perceived history of black women and trying to exterminate the black race. Do you identify as being black or African American descent?
Do I?
Yes.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that I share a different count of melanin.
Okay. So that being said, I am African American, and so I respectfully disagree with your assessment and using our race as an argument for.
Representative, I appreciate that. Which part do you disagree with? So I can maybe respond.
All of it, every single bit of it.
You don't agree that slavery happened in America, that white people oppressed black people?
What's that got to do with abortion? This bill?
My point, Representative, thank you for the question, was that in history we have drawn circles around classes of people. White people did it to, unfortunately and abominably, to your ancestors. White people drew a circle around themselves and said, we will be the humans that will have the rights and equal protection, but we will draw a smaller circle around our black brothers and sisters and oppress them.
You don't get to change the narrative. Just leave the talk about African American stuff to actually.
Okay. Yeah. I would just say, just in final word to that, is that I believe that all human beings have a duty to stand for justice, no matter the size, no matter the level of development, no matter the color of another human being. I believe that what made slavery such an abomination was that human beings deserve to be equally protected and shown no partiality. That's what's happening in abortion. It happened, unfortunately, in America with slavery. It happened, unfortunately, in the Holocaust.
Okay, Rev. Kendrick. Remember questions. We'll come back for commentary. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
All right. Next, we have Sarah Hurt Blackwell. And members, just remember, I'm always open to y'all asking questions, but y'all remember, the more questions y'all ask, it may eat into time for people that are signed up both for and against, so we want to make sure we have everybody heard. Good afternoon. Good to have you with us again.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Sarah Hunt Blackwell. I'm the First Amendment policy advocate with the ACLU of Georgia. I know my time is brief, so please excuse the choppiness of my testimony. HB 441 does not represent the will of the people. Only 12 states have a complete abortion ban. It's only 24% of the country. Only 11 states criminalize physicians for providing abortion care services. It's only 22% of the country. Adding Georgia to the minority of states with such an extreme restriction on health care access is not the route that most Georgians want to take. Public opinion in Georgia overwhelmingly opposes the criminalization of abortion. There are various studies and data that I was going to reference. I will refrain from doing so for the sake of time. By defining life at fertilization, HB 441 would severely restrict access to and create criminal liability for those seeking critical reproductive health care services. Moreover, the legal uncertainties that medical professionals would face under this bill could impact patients' access to miscarriage management, potentially leading to delays in life-saving treatments. To that point, the health care issue that we actually need this legislature support on is health care for those individuals in Georgia who do carry pregnancy to term. Georgia tops the list of having the highest maternal mortality rates in the country, particularly among black women. And HB 441 would exacerbate this crisis. It's interesting, actually, I've testified in support of bills that would have significantly improved maternal health in Georgia, saving babies and mothers, yet those committees had a fraction of the attendance of the committee today.
Sarah, I hate to interrupt. If you want to wrap up for me.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. If we're going to support life, let's actually support life and not cherry pick the point in development where we believe life deserves protection. Please oppose this bill. Thank you.
See no question from committee. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next I have Catherine Davis. First Sergeant, could we sound for Catherine Davis?
Sir?
Catherine Davis.
Catherine Davis.
Okay. Come on down, Miss Davis. Miss Davis, just right here in front. Miss Davis, we've given everybody a minute to speak since we have so many.
Okay.
So, if you'll just...
This one?
That one works today, actually.
Which one?
This one in front of you.
Okay. My name is Catherine Davis.
Where are you from?
Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Okay.
And I'm here to speak against this bill. I am more pro-life than probably 100% of the people in this room. But this is not a pro-life bill. This bill is being billed as that, as providing equal protection. not for the one who's the most vulnerable that needs it, the baby in the womb, but it's criminalizing the woman for obtaining an abortion after she's been indoctrinated to believe for 52 years that it's her right to take the life of that child. So we're not re-educating the culture. We're not talking about helping these women. We're talking about penalizing them, but not the doctor who does the abortion or the abortion provider, whatever their legal standing is. So I wanted to speak against it. And I'm going to get up. As a black woman, the person that's going to be most hurt by this in this state are black women, when 66% of the abortions in our state are on black women. Who's going to be paying the penalty for the misdemeanor? I'm against this bill. If we want to do a pro-life bill, then let's do equal protection and due process for the baby and 100% baby.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Appreciate that. Let's see. Elizabeth Edwards. All right. First Sergeant, could y'all say them for Elizabeth Edwards?
Elizabeth Edwards.
Yes, sir. Edmonds. I'm sorry, Edmonds.
Elizabeth Edmonds. That chair right there in the middle.
Come on in, Miss Edmonds. If you'll just introduce yourself and tell us where you're from. And I don't know if you heard outside, we're given a minute to speak due to all the witnesses we have signed up for and against. So
thank you, I
Go
appreciate
ahead.
it. I'm Elizabeth Edmonds. I am formerly a lobbyist with the pro-life movement. I am still very pro-life. I'm here today in opposition of this bill. When I was 15, I was raped by a boy I went to high school with. I was pressured by him, by his parents, by everyone in my life to get an abortion. When I decided not to get an abortion because of care I received at a pregnancy crisis center, my mother looked at me and she said, "Okay, well, I'm going home. Where are you going?" I chose life for my daughter and adoption. I got to meet her when she was 18 years old. She's now in college at Toccoa Falls. She is a delight in my life. I'm here in opposition specifically because of the coercion language. There are a lot of issues with this bill, but specifically with the coercion, it would be very difficult to prove. The man who raped me is not going to go before a judge and admit to what he did. He is not going to admit that he tried to convince me to get an abortion to cover up his crime. His parents, his father who's a firefighter, his mother who is a special needs teacher, they are not going to go before a judge and admit that they tried to pressure me into an abortion to cover up their son's crime. This is a bad bill. It's bad for women. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. You've got a question over to your right. Representative Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing us to hear your story, even though it is, it's probably in a very vulnerable position. I wanted to know from your perspective, having been a survivor of incidents of rape, do you feel that if this bill passes, would you feel, had this bill actually been in effect at the time that you were taken advantage of, do you feel that it would have been doubly invasive for you to be prodded or for an investigation to continue into whether or not the conception of your child was something of your desire?
Absolutely. I think it would have added a lot to that trauma that it's been 21 years and I'm still, sometimes something will happen and I'm like, wow, I haven't dealt with that. Another thing that I would love to share is that the group that is behind the drafting of this bill, AHA, Abolish Human Abortion, more than 50 of them attacked me a few years ago, verbally, not. They came after me and told me that I needed to repent of the sin of placing my daughter for adoption. They told me I had rejected God's plan for my family and motherhood. This is not a group that is pro-life. They are anti-abortion. They are anti-adoption, and they are not here to help women. I have also heard from at least 3 executive directors of pregnancy crisis centers here in Georgia who have told me that they are committed. They will resign and close down their centers that offer free services to women if this bill passes and they are required to report women who come into their centers. It has resources that just thousands of women across this state need.
My last question, and I'll be very brief. Do you believe, I guess, because as a survivor of rape and having to go with rape victims and these sessions to build yourself back up, do you, in your opinion, do you believe that this is a commonplace feeling among mothers who have unfortunately given birth after incidents of rape, that they too might feel too much under the microscope, have bill like this sees the light of day?
This is just really bad legislation. Whether a woman has been sexually assaulted or is pregnant and facing a crisis, this is not compassion. This is not how Jesus would love us. This is not a representation of the pro-life movement.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Appreciate it. All right. Next, I have Megan Hill. Is Megan Hill with us? Ms. Hill.
Yes.
I think you probably have heard by now about the minute limitation,
Yes,
just so
I
we can
have.
get through
If
each
you
other.
guys
So
just
if you'll
give me a moment,
tell
I
us,
will bring up my talking points, and then
okay,
I will.
and let us know where you're from.
My name is Megan Hill, if y'all don't know it, and I live in DeKalb County in Georgia. So I am an attorney with If When How, Lawyering for Reproductive Justice, where I provide criminal representation to women who've been charged for ending their pregnancy. I urge all of you to oppose House Bill 441. Criminalizing people who have abortions for homicide is a naked assault on the dignity of pregnant people. Pregnant Georgians, unlike any other in the country that we've seen, and these are bills that we track. I witness the consequences of this criminalization in my work every day, where our clients are stripped of their rights. They are given pelvic exams, handcuffed to a bed. This also disproportionately affects Black women and Latina immigrants, and overwhelmingly poor people or people living with domestic violence. Sometimes people have to self-manage their abortions because they are unable to access care where they live. That's an issue that happens here. Other times, they have lost a very wanted pregnancy and they end up investigated for that pregnancy, which is something we really do not need to be happening here in Georgia.
I'll give you a chance to wrap up real short.
Yes. So I thank you, senators. I urge that for every pregnant person in Georgia and for women's health generally, that you oppose this bill.
Thank you. Representatives.
Representatives.
Okay.
I apologize.
Right.
Representatives.
No problem. No
Thanks,
problem.
Phil.
All right. Thank you. Wes Fuller. I know where you're from, but
You know where
you'll tell members of the committee where you're from.
I will. Can you give me a couple extra minutes, boss?
Tell you where you're from.
All right. Yeah, I'm Pastor Wes Fuller, County Line Church, Hampton, Georgia, and also the founder of Operation Gospel. Is working to end child sacrifice here in the state of Georgia. I'm just here to tell each and every committee member today something they already know. There's a God in heaven that created the heavens and the earth. And it is unassailable that life begins at the moment of fertilization, scientifically and most importantly, biblically. God's word tells us explicitly that we shall not murder. I seriously doubt if I ask any committee member here to support legislation that would prohibit the murder of a 1, 2, or 3-year-old child, that you would not vote yes for it immediately. It would be bipartisan and it would be unanimous, and we know it would be. But here today, it is easier for you. It is easier for you today to disregard the murder and justify and be indifferent towards the murdering of preborn children in the state of Georgia, which is happening at the rate of 1 every 15 minutes here in the state of Georgia. And yes, I say it would be easier for you to justify your victims because God knows their names. He knows their names because he formed them in the mother's wombs. And I say your victims because if you oppose this righteous legislation that we are presenting here today, House Bill 441, then the blood of the innocent slain in the coming year will cry out from heaven against you, and you will stand guilty before God.
Brother Fuller, your minutes up. I'll give you a chance to conclude.
Okay. The times of ignorance God has overlooked, and he calls all men everywhere to repent because he has fixed a day which he will judge everyone by the man Christ Jesus, who he appointed and has given us assurance to all by raising him from the dead. God's word says, to him who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin. Mr. Chairman, committee members, I implore you all today to do the right thing, to bow the knee to King Jesus, and let's end this Holocaust on our preborn neighbors today by supporting House Bill 441.
Thank you, Brother Fuller.
Thank you.
You didn't bring no New Way hot dogs with you, I see.
Oh, maybe next time.
You got a question, Representative Neal?
Yeah.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Thank you to the chair. Can you give me the scripture of life beginning at fertilization?
Life beginning at fertilization? Yeah, if you look in Psalm 139, I believe it's 19. 16, thank you. 139:16 says, I knew you when I formed you in your mother's womb. When I formed you in your mother's womb. The Greek word that's being translated there is golem. It means embryo.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Next we have Matthew Johnson. Matthew Johnson. We may need a sound for him first, Sergeant.
Matthew Johnson?
Yeah.
Johnson or Judson?
Johnson.
Hey, if you want to speak, you need to come on.
Afternoon, Miss Johnson. I'm sure you probably heard before a minute since we have so many people signed up.
I grew up
to
with two in my
testify.
house, so you know.
All right, go ahead. We got you a minute to go. Tell us where you're from.
Yes, my name is Matthew Johnson. I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The first thing that I think that we should note is that there is a biblical precedent, since that has been an issue today, of a fetus not being counted as a whole human. And that is in Exodus 21, 22 through 25. But I would like to go on. There's a gentleman that I was speaking with earlier that was for this bill. And he was explaining how, his name was Jason, and he was explaining how when he was 18, he had an abortion with his partner at the time. And he says that that was wicked, and luckily he was able to turn his life around. My issue is that with this bill, somebody wouldn't be able to even turn their life around because they would be charged with murder. And I think this is completely unacceptable. And another thing that we should point out is, especially looking at this argument from the sovereignty of God or a religious perspective, we must have faith that God will whoever God will to live in this world. And that same daughter Clara that Jason came with earlier would not be in existence today if things had played out when he was 18 the way that he explained.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I have Nathaniel Darnell. Come on up. I know you're from Georgia. Just tell us where you're from.
From Powder Springs, from State Representative Gullett's district.
Gotcha.
Pleased to be with you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. I come before you as the president of the Georgia Republican Assembly. I'm also a Republican activist in the 14th District. I'm the treasurer of that organization. I'm one of the state committee members for the Georgia Republican Party. And I'd just like to read for you real quickly the platform of the Georgia Republican Party on this subject, which says, "We believe in the right to life from conception, beginning at fertilization, to natural death." That is the standard of the Republican Party in our state. And Republicans have had the majority of this legislature for some 20 odd years, and yet we have not fulfilled this promise to the people of Georgia, to the babies of Georgia that are being murdered every day. We've wasted a lot of time while we've been in power not addressing this issue adequately. So I call upon the Republicans, especially of this committee and of the State House, to take action to save the life of the preborn according to the promise that we are making in our platform, to be consistent, to not be hypocritical on this subject. I would point out, thank you.
I'll give you a chance to make a conclusion.
That's pretty much it, but thank you very much for your time and appreciate your favorable consideration for House Bill 441.
Yeah, thank you. Miss seeing you at the 14th District Conventions. I'm now on the 3rd.
We'll see you there.
All right. Okay, next we have Sylvester. Is that Sylvester Pierce? Pierce. Okay, I got it, Sylvester. Okay, come on down, Sylvester. This looks like you're with an organization. Sister Song?
Sister Song.
Okay, I'll give you a chance to say that too. I'll just make sure I've read that
Don't start
right.
my time yet.
I'm working on my eyesight. No, don't worry, don't worry. We'll be as fair to everybody.
I appreciate that. Good day to all of y'all. My name is Sylvester Pierce. I'm a twice certified doula in the state of Georgia. I live in East Point, Fulton County, and I serve the families in Georgia where I live and anyone that needs assistance or help. I had something else to say, but since slavery was brought into this conversation, I will say the only way that women who were raped while they were enslaved to fight against their enslavers was to have abortions once they were pregnant. That was the way they made sure that they could combat those who were trying to make more children that they were going to have enslaved as well. I also want to say that if we really want to care about life in Georgia, then open back up the hospitals that have been closed in the communities where black women live right now that are being forced to not get the proper health care that they should be provided with. You're talking about criminalization here, which means you're putting more people in jail right now. Somebody brought up earlier that there are no instances where a mother is going to be in any way put into danger by being pregnant. Every time that happens, it's not always a pre-existing condition. Some conditions arise after pregnancy and abortions are needed. I know of someone personally who died because he was not given an abortion. Her name was Sasha. My sister, however, was able to survive. If I can conclude with this, I will say some of those conditions so that if it comes up again, they'll be able to know which ones they are. Thank you for the time for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Preeclampsia, ectopic pregnancy, placental abruption, gestational diabetes, uterine rupture, amniotic fluid embolism, and severe hemorrhages. Also, since we talked about being pro-life, I'm very much keeping people alive. I'm a certified AHA, CPR instructor, BLS instructor, and Stop the Bleed instructor. I care about life. I want our women to have their choices.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce.
Thank you so much.
It. No questions. All right. Next we have, I can't make that out, so I'm going to have to come back to it. I'm sorry. We're going to have to write a little bit more legibly. All right. Bradley Pierce. Bradley, you want to come back up, or have you said as much? All right. I won't say anything about the Aggies then. Ricardo Davis.
He's here. I'm here.
Come on down, Mr. Davis. You're from Georgia, right?
Yes, sir.
If you'll just tell me what part of Georgia you from, Mr. Davis.
I'll be glad to.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Ricardo Davis. I hail from Cherokee County, Georgia, and I serve as president of the board of Georgia Right to Life. I've come here to speak on behalf of Georgia Right to Life in support of House Bill 441. As many of you all know, Georgia Right to Life understands that our nation's recognition that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, beginning with the right to life. And that is not dependent upon the will of men, but rather the law of God, which says, and I quote, "You shall not murder," and again I quote, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Now, each of you all who took an oath to swear to uphold our nation's Constitution and our state Constitution and in the federal Constitution, in the 14th Amendment, it requires that no state shall, and I quote, "deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of its laws." And this bill does advance that for the most vulnerable in our communities. And in particular,
Mr. Davis, I'll give you a chance to conclude.
okay, I'll just wrap it up with saying this. As has been brought up earlier, history bears witness as a nation that we've not always done this. It took generations of my ancestors here in the South. I grew up in Central Arkansas to overcome the evil of sinful partiality encoded in law to strip my parents and their ancestors of their constitutional rights. I am here representing hundreds of thousands of people here in the state of Georgia, saying that now is the time to right that wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. And I have a copy of my comments for the committee.
Okay, well, if you'll just leave those over there, we'll make sure each member gets a copy of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Paul Abbott. Mr. Paul Abbott. First Sergeant, could we sound for Paul Abbott?
Paul Abbott. Paul Abbott. Hey. Paul Abbott. A-B-B-O-T. Paul Abbott.
Okay. Yeah.
I take it he's here, sir.
Come on down. Come on down. Mr. Abbott, I'm sure you're probably aware, but you got a minute just so we can accommodate all of those that have come to speak today. We've got a lot for and against. If you'll tell us where you're from.
All right, my name is Paul Abbott. I used to live in Georgia. I currently live in Alabama, and I am the executive director for End Abortion Alabama. I'm here to speak for House Bill 441. Psalm 24 says, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof." That Lord is Jesus Christ. He is the Lord of the earth and, of course, the Lord of Georgia. Georgia is in the earth. So he not only did he form the land that we are walking on, he made all the Georgians that are in it. He made all the fullness of it. Everything in this world, because he's a creator, owes their allegiance to Jesus Christ. And so he has given us a law, and his law says, "Thou shalt not kill." He said that through Moses, and Jesus, when he was on this earth 2,000 years ago, said that thou shalt not murder. And so what this law simply does is applies the laws that we currently have that protect born people from being murdered, and takes them and applies those to the unborn people that are currently being murdered legally in the state of Georgia, and now protect them and stop those abortions from happening. Thank you.
You came in under a minute. Thank you, sir. No questions.
All right.
All right. Dr. Calhoun? Corrine.
She's outside. She's outside. She's outside.
What's the name?
Dr. Corrine?
Dr. Calhoun?
Dr.
She's outside.
Okay, Dr. Calhoun, that was correct, First Sergeant. Don't. Dr. Calhoun.
Dr. Calhoun. Dr. Calhoun. Dr. Calhoun.
Dr. Calhoun, I think you've probably been made aware, but you got a minute to get your comments in. Sorry about that, but we're trying to accommodate as many as we can.
Thank you, Chairman Smith and the committee, for hearing my remarks today. My name is Dr. Catherine Calhoun. I'm a medical doctor practicing in the field of OBGYN for over 20 years. I specialize in reproductive endocrinology and infertility treatment, so I help my patients get pregnant and I follow them through the first trimester of pregnancy. Many of my patients must utilize in vitro fertilization or IVF to conceive. Our state of Georgia has a proud history of being a national leader in fertility treatment, and we were in fact a pioneering state in the 1980s when IVF began. Millions of your Georgia constituents and their children and their grandchildren are here because of IVF. House Bill 441 threatens how IVF is practiced, and as we saw in Alabama last year, House Bill 441 will force fertility clinics to close and leave millions of our Georgians with no way to realize their dream of a family. I'm also concerned with how House Bill 441 will affect the safety of my patients in early pregnancy. As mentioned previously, this bill will further limit access to proper early pregnancy care. When you consider House Bill 441, please understand how it threatens the lives of Georgia patients and Georgia families by preventing access to proper medical care. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I do live in Georgia, I practice in Georgia, and I'm raising my family in Georgia. Okay. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you. I'll allow it. Just remember, we still have a lot of people to have testify. Representative Panich.
Thank you. You are aware, I'm sure, that the House unanimously approved a IVF bill to protect IVF in Georgia.
Yes,
right?
I am.
Okay. Would this bill nullify IVF in Georgia and that bill?
It would, and in fact, it will cause providers to leave, not only infertility specialists, but also providers of early pregnancy care. It's going to leave our patients that are the most vulnerable in areas of this state where care is scarce already with no options.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Byrd, you understand the time constraints too. I'm making sure I made it out equally between both parties here today. Go ahead.
I don't know that any of us spoke yet, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You haven't, I know that, so I'll give you a little attitude.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for being here today. Could you tell me what part of the bill actually affects IVF? And my second question, why would a bill that outlaws homicide affect IVF? I personally went through it myself.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question. So this bill, House Bill 441, grants embryos full legal personhood from the time of fertilization. I'm sure you know from going through IVF that fertilizing is part of IVF. And so if you're criminalizing the death of an unborn child as homicide under many circumstances with this bill, even though it includes limited exceptions, like miscarriage or to save the mother's life, its broad language and the potential for criminal prosecution for doctors will deter them from even offering legal procedures. But this is going to limit, I don't know how much insight you had into your own IVF process, or if they let you see what was going on in the lab or told you it was a long time ago. Your words, not mine, to be clear. We have to, because of how inefficient human reproduction is, and again, that's going to go way past your time limit, but it's a whole nother day, because of how inefficient human reproduction is, in order to get one live birth for our patients, as you may remember, sometimes it takes many, many embryos. And sometimes those embryos, most of the time, those embryos stop growing in the lab, in the dish, by no fault of anyone's. It's just because they're not healthy, they can't survive, and they end up stopping their growth in the lab. And so if our embryologists or our doctors or any of the providers in our clinic could be held criminally liable for the fact that an embryo didn't make it in a dish by no fault of their own, but just by biology or God's will or whatever you all want to believe about that, we wouldn't be able to practice. It wouldn't be possible for us to practice. The threat and the danger would be too real to ourselves and our own families to practice that in the state of Georgia.
One follow-up, please. And so do clinics commit homicide?
I can't speak. I have no idea how to answer that question. It's so broad.
Well, yes, it is. Certainly for me, it's fertilization. And so if you're growing inside a petri dish and you have an egg and a sperm and it start growing, that would become life. Is that not correct?
Not always.
Okay.
As I said before, because of how inefficient we are as a human species, it takes many, many attempts for them to become life as, I don't know how we're going to define that, but to have a heartbeat in the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you. No other questions. All right. Dr. Austin.
Shermer, Austin Shermer.
You want to let her know, Dr. Calhoun? Dr. Austin. Dr. Austin Sure. Sure. All right. Sorry for calling you by your first name there, Doctor. But
Afternoon. My name is Dr. Austin Shermer. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. I'm, like Dr. Calhoun, a board-certified reproductive endocrinologist, and I practice here in the state of Georgia. My family and I are proud to call this state home, and like many of you, we believe in the importance of faith, family, personal responsibility, and service to others. I had prepared more extensive remarks, but given the time restrictions, I'll put it simply. The bill under consideration, declaring that life begins at conception, while it may be rooted in strong personal conviction, Georgia already has laws in place. Abortion is not legal after 6 weeks, and what this new legislation would primarily do is restrict access to fertility treatments and make it more difficult to safely manage certain types of miscarriage. This is not a question of politics. There's a compelling story that I wanted to share with you today that I will do so quickly. I had the pleasure of taking care of a couple here in Georgia. The husband was a soldier in the United States Army Special Forces. He was left paralyzed by his injuries in the line of duty. Despite this, he and his wife rebuilt their lives as civilians with incredible resilience, but his injuries left him unable to conceive naturally. IVF was their only option to have a child.
Doctor, I'm going to have to ask you to make a conclusion.
Yes, sir. I would like to conclude then by saying that this is not a question of politics. Your constituents have infertility. It's a secret wound that they carry. And by opposing this bill, we will make sure that they have access to the care that they need to build their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. All right, next up we have Brian Gunner. If you'll introduce yourself, if you're with the organization, where are you from?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian Gunter. I am the pastor of First Baptist Church in Livingston, Louisiana. I'm here today because I brought such a bill, House Bill 813, in my state of Louisiana back in 2022. And that bill was opposed in my state. It was the same bill, very simple. Life begins at the moment of fertilization, and that is found in Psalm 139, verse 16. There it says, David says that in your days were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. And at the beginning of that verse, he says, your eyes saw me as and the Hebrew word is golem, embryo. God saw David as an embryo, and that was the first day of his life, according to Psalm 139, verse 16. Now, we who say we are pro-life, I certainly was a part of the pro-life movement for many years. We believe that life begins at fertilization. We're saying if you really believe it, put it into law. Because the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that's a human in the womb. Why should the human in the womb have less rights than you and I have? Because they're smaller or weaker than us? That's why we oppressed other people throughout history, and we know that was wrong. The reality is, the question before you today is very simply this: should it be legal for a mother to murder a baby by abortion in her womb? My answer is no. Baby murder shouldn't be legal. I think it's extreme to argue that baby murder should ever be legal, and that's why you should pass HB 441.
Well, all right, so you concluded. All right, thank you. All right, next we have Dr. Kotke. Kotke.
Dr. I don't know how you spell it. K-O-T-K?
She's outside.
Tell you what, First Sergeant, we're going to put her on deck. Come on down, Doctor.
Just have a seat chair. They're going to get you next. Thank you.
right.
Good afternoon.
I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to be able to speak. My name is Dr. Corrine Frew. I am the founder and owner of a fertility clinic in the state of Georgia. We're located in Sandy Springs. We're Muna Fertility. So I come here as a mother, as someone who has a child born from infertility, and also as a business owner who has employees in their care, and as a doctor who takes care of patients who, through no fault of their own, are burdened with infertility. This bill, if you vote for it, I cannot work. If you believe truly that life begins at fertilization, that means that a single cell, a fertilized egg is a single cell. You now tell me that a single cell has the same rights as my children at home? That single cell, pardon me, I'm passionate. This is my life's work. I have dedicated 18 years of study to it. I have dedicated all my money to build this business. Why? Because there are way too many people in Georgia who don't have access to the care. So if you start out with 10 eggs and you fertilize all of them, I'm wrapping up. I just want to do a little bit of biology. We need to understand this. This whole concept of we all know that life begins at fertilization is wrong. It is scientifically wrong. Have any of you seen an embryo? I have. I have. You know why? Because once you fertilize the egg, you then have to leave it in culture under very specific conditions for the next 5 to 6 days. And I tell all my patients, you may start out with 20 eggs, you may wind up with 2 embryos. Am I guilty of murder? That makes me a serial killer. What? My whole life is doing God's work. He said, go forth and procreate. I'm doing that. Please just let me continue to do that. I cannot go to jail because I want to help people become parents.
Thank you.
This bill criminalizes what I do.
Thank you, Doctor.
I thank you for that.
Appreciate you being here. I know you've been here since 10 o'clock this morning, so thanks for being patient.
I decided not to see patients today because this threatened everything that I believe in. Were this bill to pass, I would have died. Personally, I have had 6 miscarriages, and I have a child from IVF. This is not what we want for Georgians.
Thank you, Doctor.
We want hope. Please vote for hope. Vote against this bill.
Thank you, Doctor.
I thank you.
All right.
Is that all?
Yes, you're good to go. Thank you. Is that Stephen Morris? Morris. Okay, gotcha. Come on down. If you'll introduce yourself and tell us where you're from.
She came in. Dr. Cox is here also.
I'm coming up to you here in just a second. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm a pastor in Loganville, Georgia, the pastor of Loganville Baptist Church. And every week I stand in front of abortion clinics in Forest Park and in Lawrenceville. I have a sign that says, God hates the hands that shed innocent blood. It's a Bible verse from Proverbs 6. And often I'm attacked because I have that, I'm attacked because I have those words that God hates the hands that shed innocent blood. And my question is always, oughtn't we all hate the hands that shed innocent blood? I mean, oughtn't we all stand up for the innocent? You know, I'm a pastor, I said, but I'm also a Christian. And when I stand in front of the murder mills, I plead with the women to have mercy on their nearest neighbor. The nearest neighbor to them is in their womb. I get the opportunity today to stand in front of y'all who literally make laws and regulations for my real neighbors, right? This is on you now. I get to plead with you to have mercy on our neighbors. These babies are the most helpless neighbors that any of us have. And I want to call on y'all to have mercy. Choose the life of these babies and vote yes for it.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Appreciate you taking time to come be with us. All right, next we have, is that Duke, Virginia? No, I'm sorry. Duke, Virginia be up on deck. Dr. Kotke. That wasn't on purpose, Dr. Kotke.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Kotke. I am a board-certified OBGYN. I'm the past president of the Georgia OBGYN Society, and I'm the vice chair of the Georgia section of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. I have been practicing in Georgia for nearly 20 years, and I'm profoundly concerned about the implications of House Bill 441. This is a personhood bill. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, representing over 60,000 physician members, strongly opposes personhood measures in any form because of the harm they inflict. While this bill suggests its motivations are to achieve, I'm going to use air quotes, equal protections under the law, what it really does is elevate and prioritize the status for a developing pregnancy to that above the pregnant person. At its core, this bill strips the pregnant person of her bodily autonomy and privacy. This bill would undeniably result in delay and denial of care for fear of damaging the pregnancy. I remember one of the first mantras I learned as an OBGYN resident was, in order to save the baby, you have to save the mom. Sometimes care during pregnancy is complex, and sometimes pregnant women have car accidents, are diagnosed with cancer, have complex medical conditions, and sometimes they need imaging, medications, surgeries, or treatments that bear risk for the pregnancy.
Doctor, I'll give you a chance to make a conclusion.
The care that should be determined by the patient, her family, her condition, and her clinical care team. The one final note I would have is this bill's not grounded in science or medicine. To my knowledge, there is no test that can identify if or when fertilization has occurred. As such, it's completely unclear how it would be operationalized. But the chilling effect and the slippery slope will be real, and it will lead to harm for women and families in Georgia.
Thank you, Dr. Kotke. Members, I still have 30 people for and against to get to. If you'll indulge me on getting through these. Thank you, Dr. Kotke.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have Duke with us?
First name?
Duke.
Last name?
I think it's Virginia. Duke, Virginia.
Down Virginia.
Come on down.
Hello.
You've heard about the minute limitation out of.
Oh yeah, I won't need a minute.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm Duke, Virginia. Live in Atlanta, Georgia. Very simply, just want to say the call for punishment and enslavement in the name of Jesus is something. I guess some things never change. Some Christians got up here and said, some white Christians said that white abolitionists, white Christians, abolished slavery. Unbelievable. The doctor who was just in here is fighting to save lives, and folks are trying to turn her into a serial killer. There are serial killers lined in our halls right now, wearing blue. Those are serial killers, not doctors trying to save women's lives, save pregnant people's lives. So my statement is just the call for enslavement and punishment and calling that helping women. That's not it. There are a lot of ways to support women. There are a lot of ways to support children. Throwing them in jail, that's not a way. Thank you all.
No questions, thank you. All right. Next we have Haiti Salas. Haiti Salas. Haiti, Haydees, Hattie.
Last name?
Salas, S-A-L-A-S. You're going to have to forgive the chair. I'm from West Georgia and I got an East Alabama influence.
I'm sorry.
Right through here.
All right.
Put your hand out.
Come
Chair
on
order
through.
is right
Thank
there.
you. Thank you.
Very
Thank
well.
you. Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon. We got a minute. I apologize for butchering your name.
Haiti Salas.
Haiti.
Yes.
All right, go ahead. I'll give you a minute.
All right, thank you. Would just like everyone to take a nice deep breath with me and let it out. A lot of stuff has been said, and what I have to say has to be heard. My name is Haiti Salas. I am the founder of Comadres Group. I am a full spectrum doula and a mother of 4. I am here on behalf of many women, and more specifically for my own daughter. I have a set of twins that are 21 years old, and when I was pregnant with them, my daughter, I have a girl and a boy, my daughter Genesis was diagnosed with pulmonary tricuspid atresia. Her whole entire life, she's been told she could not have babies, she could not conceive babies, and if she did, she would die. Her whole entire life. She's 21. This bill puts her in danger for many, many, many reasons. She's already had to fight to survive inside the womb. And outside of the womb, she's had to go under 3 times for open heart surgery.
Haiti, I'll give you a chance to make a conclusion.
Thank you. This bill right here puts my daughter and any female who is born with any congenital heart disease at risk of being imprisoned. And our prison system is not equipped to have women with heart conditions give birth in them. So with this bill, you're going to open up a whole lot more can of worms. And we're going to need more funding to go towards those imprisoned women. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next we have Virgil Walker. What a great name, Virgil.
Thank you. I think that's a fantastic name, too.
That's old school name that needs to be brought back. That will not count against your time. Go ahead.
That's exactly right. And I'm from Georgia. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, grateful to be here, grateful to be in front of you. I'm the Vice President of Ministry Relations at G3 Ministries and an abolitionist to abortion. I strongly support HB 411 because of equal protection under the law means equal protection for all, including the preborn. This bill does what justice demands. It removes loopholes that allow violence against unborn children, empowers the Attorney General to ensure statewide enforcement, and provides coercion defense for mothers under pressure. We've already given the state authority to act on human trafficking because evil doesn't stop at county lines. The same principle applies here. The unborn deserve more than lip service. They deserve full protection under the law. And as a Christian, I believe life begins at fertilization. As a citizen, I believe no one should be denied justice because of their size, stage, or silence. HB 441 is righteous, reasonable, and required, and I urge you to pass it. Thank you.
Came in under a minute, no questions. Thank you very much. I think we got Dr. Lynn Goldman. Dr. Lynn Goldman. If we'll put Dr. Lynn Goldman on deck. Next, I'll have Rachel Hester. Oh, Dr. Goldman's with us. Come on down, Dr. Goldman.
It's a little hard to hear out there, sorry.
I understand. Go ahead. And you understand the minute limitation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us where you're from.
I'm Lynn Goldman, and I'm the president of the Georgia Fertility Foundation. I'm also an adoption and fertility attorney here in Atlanta, Georgia. And more importantly, I am the mother of twin 22-year-olds conceived through IVF. And I'm here to talk to you today about the unintended legal consequences of House Bill 441. House Bill 441 doesn't just touch one area of law. It impacts criminal, family, probate, health, and civil liability law. House Bill 441 will cause a floodgate of litigation and uncertainty in our law, where every case will be one of first impression and subject to litigation in trial and appellate courts. This bill would deny 1 in 6 Georgians the opportunity to access fertility care to build their family. Under this bill, pursuant to our Georgia family law, custody of embryos would be subject to relitigation at any time there's a change in circumstances. Fights between spouses over embryos would be never ending and overwhelming our court system. What happens if people stop paying storage fees and abandon their embryos? Do these embryos go in foster care? Does the state pay for foster care for these embryos?
I'll give you a conclusion if you want to make it.
As I've aimed to illustrate today, House Bill 441 would create confusion, conflict, and unintended consequences across nearly every area of our legal system. Again, 1 in 6 of your constituents would be denied access to fertility care to build their families.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rachel Hester. Hester. I will go ahead and have you come up while we're waiting. Come on up.
Rachel Hester.
If you'll introduce yourself to us.
Sure. My name is Meg Lawley. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist in the state of Georgia. I am from Georgia. I completed my medical school, residency, and fellowship in Georgia. I am a product of the Georgia undergraduate and graduate medical education system. I'm here today to talk about the devastating effects that abortion bans have on medical education, specifically in Georgia. Georgia currently has 5 medical schools and graduated nearly 700 students last year. And it's incredibly difficult to practice medicine in the state. We routinely deal with hospital closures. We deal with the fact that Medicaid was not expanded and strict abortion laws that have not only impacted our patients and our workforce, but contributed significantly to the maternal morbidity and mortality epidemic in the state. Patients are getting sicker, and we do not have the resources to care for them. So to be blunt, why are we making this harder to recruit and retain physicians in Georgia when we need them more than ever? This total abortion ban would make an already dire situation significantly worse for our physician shortage in Georgia. In 2023, the AAMC demonstrated that abortion bans affect where medical students apply for residency. States with abortion bans have less residency applications. This isn't specific to OBGYN, this is across the board. Primary care, general surgery, family medicine. States with total abortion bans saw a nearly 5% decrease in overall residency applications, and this was felt most strongly in family medicine, where a total abortion ban saw a precipitous drop in their state residency applications. These bans have a very real effect on people not wanting to train and practice medicine in our state. We need physicians, not bans, in Georgia. I work not only as an OBGYN, but I run the required medical student OBGYN rotation for one of our medical students for one of our medical schools in our state. And I can tell you firsthand how abortion restrictions affect our medical students, the decisions that they make in terms of what type of medicine they want to practice, where they apply, and ultimately where they match.
Doctor, I'm afraid I didn't set an alarm, so that's on me. I'll give you a conclusion to make.
Thank you. Medical students are not interested in training and working in areas where they worry about getting arrested for taking care of patients. Medical students are not interested in practicing medicine where they worry about their own reproductive health as they start their own families. Medical students are not interested in practicing medicine where they are unable to provide evidence-based medicine because we're playing politics with people's lives. We need physicians, not bans in Georgia. And we need doctors in Georgia, and abortion bans like HB 441 make this harder. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Miss Hester? And tell us who you have with you.
This is Ava Hester.
Okay, and how old's Miss Ava?
She is 12 months old.
Okay, I have a 7-week-old, so
She doesn't speak, or she'd be speaking today.
go ahead.
I am a Georgia woman, a wife, and a mom. I'm from Canton, Georgia, and this is my sweet baby I brought with me today. I believe in the preciousness and sanctity of life, but I'm also staunchly against this bill. I fear the polarity that we're all living in these times has caused us to lose our way away from common sense. I don't think that most Georgians want to see a mother who already has children have to be forced to carry a pregnancy to term if it will leave her permanently disabled. I don't think that most Georgians want to see a woman who is raped have to carry her rapist baby to term or be charged with murder. And I definitely don't think that they want to see a child who is the victim of incest be forced to carry their child to term or be charged with murder. This bill leaves no room for solutions, and I think as Americans we often think of extremist religious ideologies as something that happens elsewhere in the world, but I did some research last night and I have found that In Iran, they allow exceptions for fetal malformation, and in Pakistan, they allow exceptions for the health, not just the life of the mother. So I beg of you to think about women and girls in Georgia, just like me and my daughter who will be harmed by this bill, and to really ask yourself, what kind of state do we want to be? Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Hester. And there's a Deborah Hester. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get to Miss Deborah Hester. I know. Come on down, Miss Hester.
Hi.
We know where you're from. If you want to just jump right in, you got a minute.
Okay, thank you. I'll get rid of my gun. And thank y'all for having the hearing. All right. The problem with many of the laws that are passed with good intentions is that legislators can't anticipate the negative consequences. And pregnancy and other matters of health are not black and white issues and should be determined by doctors and not legislators. This bill will cause harm to Georgia residents. Women are already dying due to delayed care when they have a miscarriage because doctors are afraid to provide care due to the consequences that they may face. The proposed bill will force young girls to carry pregnancies to term at great physical risk to their health, and because their bodies are not mature enough. They are not mature enough until the age of 19, generally, to healthily have a pregnancy.
I'll give you a chance to make a conclusion.
All right. The representatives who proposed this bill could help their constituents by doing more to promote education, sex education, provide family counseling to help girls who are in unstable or unsafe situations, and to provide more medical care and contraceptives to low-income women. That would help Georgia families. This bill will not.
Thank you for making the drive down today, Miss Hester. Beautiful granddaughter, I might add, by the way.
I know it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We got an eligible bachelor over off Cashtown, by the way. So my 7-week-old son. I'm just All right. So I'm going to spell this out. I think that's a Z-E-M-M-I-E. Zimmy. You know the last name pronunciation? F. Fleck. Zimmy Fleck.
I hope she's in here, because I know you don't expect me to get
Are you losing your voice?
There's a musician named Doug.
Zimmy, I apologize. Come on down. You got a minute, Miss Fleck. Middle chair, sorry. Are you related to Dr. Fleck out of Carrollton?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay, well, he's a good doctor, so.
Well, good.
Go ahead.
Glad to hear. All right. Thank you so much for having me today, and I appreciate your time on this committee. I am Zimmy Fleck. I serve as Executive Director of Georgia Right to Life. More importantly, I am a Christian mother. I have 3 adult sons. I have 8 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. I'm going to skip to the very heart of what I'm here to say today. In June of 2022, the United Supreme Court decision in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization paved the way for Georgians to take hold of bold and decisive action and leave no child vulnerable to death by abortion. The 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution provides that no state shall deny any person within its jurisdiction an equal protection of the laws. Current Georgia law already defines a person to include a natural person, which means any human being, including an unborn child, and that is from our code that was written in 2020.
Zemi, I'll give you a chance to make a conclusion.
Okay. And my conclusion today is that when we speak of criminalization, the majority will jump to the conclusion that women who have abortions will be prosecuted for homicide. That simply would not be the general case. We are well aware that there are women who are coerced, women whose lives are threatened, and who are even killed just for being pregnant. We understand that. There are women who do not boldly and defiantly go to the abortion mill to kill their children. Abortion can end in Georgia, but only if Georgians are willing to treat abortion for what it is, and that is the murder of innocent human beings. And this narrative has got to come back to the fact of abortion and not medical care.
Thank you, Zemi. Appreciate you taking the time
sir.
today. All right. Let's see. What's your name?
My name is Anna Newton-Levinson.
Okay. Anna, come on up.
Good afternoon. I will try and be brief. My name is Anna Newton-Levinson. I am a researcher and behavioral scientist, and I study access to reproductive health care in the Southeast, and I've done this for over 10 years. I'm also a Georgia resident and a mother, and I'm here today to provide testimony in opposition to House Bill 441. House Bill 441 will further put pregnant women in danger by increasing existing fear and confusion, by restricting clinicians' ability to provide the best possible care according to the unique needs of their patients, and by further inhumanely restricting access to care for patients in emergency situations, and instead punishing them. In our research to date, we have found that even with exceptions under the current ban, pregnant women are having to wait to receive care until they are near enough to death to be treated. And often when turned away from care, they must weather these risky situations on their own at home, resulting in deaths, life-threatening medical emergencies, and lasting trauma. In our research, we have heard stories such as that of Sarah, who experienced a loss of a highly desired twin pregnancy and was sent home from the ER multiple times. Sarah did not receive treatment after losing most of her amniotic fluid, nor after losing the first of her twins at home. Only after the second twin no longer had a heartbeat was she able to be admitted and receive care.
Doctor, I'll let you make a
Sure.
conclusion.
I hope you can see how truly terrifying it is to be pregnant in this state, where if anything goes wrong, you could be forced to bleed in a hospital waiting room for hours, be forced to give birth to a child you don't know would survive, or have a condition that puts your life at risk, and not know whether you will be there to parent your living children. The proposed law would only serve to further endanger the lives of pregnant women in Georgia. We need to be protecting the health of pregnant women and their families, not seeking to criminalize them. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. And if I'd have seen Doctor before, I'd have addressed you as such. I want to make sure we acknowledge what you worked a long time on. All right. Next we have, is that Dr. Lisa Huddard?
Lisa Haddad.
Haddad. All right, we'll put her on deck. You want to go, sir? Come on up. That way, make it happen. Improvise and overcome. Come on down. You're on deck. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Bernstein. I'm the rabbi of Congregation Gesher LaTorah in Alpharetta. I believe I may be the only rabbi speaking, as Representative Panich is the only Jewish legislator in the state. I've heard a lot of denial of the Holocaust. I've heard a lot of discounting of what Jews went through. I have never heard the killing of 6 million people compared to embryos, let alone blastocytes, zygotes at conception. 6 million human beings with lives and property and entire worlds snuffed out, and that's compared. You want to compare the doctor who spoke before to Dr. Mengele, this woman who works in IVF? That's what this bill does. And if you feel that an embryo is like the life of a Jew, or with permission, the enslaved African, then I want to know what you think of Jews and enslaved Africans. Now, this is not a religious session, so I don't want to take the time to explain what our Jewish view is on this, except to say one thing. I was told outside that only someone believing in Jesus has a say here, and I will conclude, but I want to conclude with one personal note. Someone very dear to me could die if she got pregnant. God forbid that she could die. The only measure she knew to take to prevent her life from being in danger, the only thing she could do was move out of Georgia. Who are the persecutors and who are the persecuted?
Thank you, Rabbi, for being with us. All right. Next, I have Emily Walker Cornetta. Oh, Doctor, come on up. We'll put Miss Cornetta on deck.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Come on down, Doctor. You've got a minute. Tell us where you're from.
Thank you so much. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Lisa Haddad. I'm an OBGYN researcher and mother of 3, all born and raised in Georgia. I stand in strong opposition to HB 441, which proposes a total abortion ban. This goes beyond the current 6-week ban and will harm many Georgians. I believe this poses a threat to the health care by allowing prosecution for both providers and women seeking medical care, even in emergencies. Abortion is one of the safest medical procedures. It's safer than continuing a pregnancy. A total ban strips women of choice, forcing them into potentially dangerous situations. These women are our sisters, our friends, our daughters. They deserve compassion and respect. I have seen the pain that results when a restrictive law prevents access to necessary medical care. It's a portrayal of our duty to do no harm. It is preventable and it is cruel. As a provider, I guide women through personal decisions. Criminalizing compassionate care instills fear in both patients and providers, complicating our ability to provide the care that they need. Many doctors already have this fear to perform necessary abortions, and HB 441 would amplify this fear. So, in conclusion, I believe life is precious, and it is vital that we honor the health and dignity of women in our communities. This bill undermines those values. Those are my values. And people do not want government intruding into their personal medical decisions. Access to safe, necessary health care is a basic right, and everyone deserves care without fear.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking time to be with us. All right. Next, we have Leah Jones. In the meantime, who do we have? Anybody on this side in the back signed up to testify? Anybody over here signed? All right, come on up, ma'am. Come on up.
Yes.
What's your name?
My name is Irene Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and other members of the committee.
Got that right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Irene Martinez. I am a registered nurse with nearly 9 years of experience. Specifically, I work in the neonatal intensive care unit. I take care of some of the babies that will be forced to be brought to us that we know won't live. I don't know how many people here have ever seen or taken care of a baby that was born with no brain, but I have. Of a baby that had one eye in the middle of his head that we knew from ultrasound would not live. There will be more of those if this bill passes. I carry that weight with me every day. I don't need any more. I'm here today to strongly oppose House Bill 441. As someone who has walked alongside people through their pregnancy, birth, and that postpartum period, I know what real care looks like. I provide it every day. This bill is not care. House Bill 441 opens the door to surveillance, criminalization, and fear, especially for Black and brown women and birthing people who are already navigating a system stacked against them. I will conclude. We need support, not surveillance. As a future midwife, I believe in listening to women and birthing people, and I believe in trusting them. House Bill 441 does the opposite. It silences, criminalizes, and harms. Let's stop this. We need care, not control. Thank you.
Representative Holly, we've got a lot more to get through, so. All right. Leah Jones.
Oh, Leah?
Yes, Emily Walker, that's right. Get Leah Jones on deck for me. I'm sorry, Emily. Come on down.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Emily Walker Cornetta. I am an Atlanta resident. I live in Fulton County. I'm an assisting priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Midtown. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today. For 8 years, I worked as a perinatal hospital chaplain, ministering to pregnant patients and their families grappling with serious fetal or maternal medical conditions, sometimes both. Over these years, I would sit with families of many different faiths as they processed a situation they never in a million years thought they would ever have to face. They'd work their way through impossible questions like if they continued the pregnancy, what would their baby's life be like, how much their child would have to suffer, whether they'd be able to parent this child, what this birth would mean for their other living children, and on and on and on. And over these years of listening, what I saw in these families was the opposite of indifference. I saw love, a weighty sense of responsibility, and a clear-eyed awareness of the kind of life they would want to give a child, and grief about what was actually possible given the realities that they were facing. And all of this listening over the years taught me that women and families need to be trusted and empowered to make difficult moral decisions about pregnancy and their families. And I'll conclude with this. You all are hearing a lot of vocal Christians in here preaching to you that Christianity teaches that abortion under any circumstance is a sin, and please understand they do not speak for all Christians. Not today in this country, and certainly not over centuries of Christian witness and practice. You're also hearing a lot about protecting life, and I believe that we must protect life here in Georgia. Let us please invest in systems of care and support rather than systems of punishment. This bill claims to be on the side of life, but it is demeaning and cruel, and it will only bring about more death.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. Liz Edmonds, if you'll be on deck, I believe you're next. Come on. Miss Jones.
Hi, my name is Leah Jones. I'm a resident of Georgia for 15 years, and I'm here to strongly oppose HB 441. This bill strips every basic human right to have complete bodily autonomy. This bill does not consider the lives of the most marginalized, especially Black women, who are more likely to die during childbirth than their white counterparts. And I'm curious how many in this room have heard of the names Candy Miller and Amber Thurman. Both of these women needed pregnancy termination health care and sought help in hospitals here in Georgia. And the other knew actually to stay home because of Georgia's strict pregnancy criminalization laws. And her unwanted pregnancy would be seen as a crime. So she stayed home and managed it herself and died, as well as the other woman I mentioned. What this bill tells us is that Georgia does not care about the blood on their hands of the state, that it does not care about Black women and the maternal mortality rates of Georgia, and that you want to see more blood on your hands by bringing HB 441. Plainly stated, this bill is violent.
Okay. All right. Liz Edmonds. Representative, generally I'll try to fit you in at the end, but we've got a lot of people that have signed up and have been waiting here all day. If you'll just hold on, I'll try to fit you in at the end, Representative. Liz Edmonds.
She's not here. Can I just testify quickly, Mr. Chair?
Come on down.
I just want to be on record letting y'all know that this legislation will be contested in court. I spoke about a constituent in the well last week who had hyperemesis gravidarum. She tried to get care at Emory. She tried to get care in Clayton County at Southern Regional. She actually lost her baby at Southern Regional, which also has been under lawsuit for decapitating a recently born baby. And she had to take an Uber to Alabama to a clinic to care for her hyperemesis gravidarum. They cared for her for 2 days and sent her back home. That next day, she was so fed up, she flew to Illinois and terminated her pregnancy. I care about life as a doula. I literally helped someone deliver a baby at 1 o'clock this morning, and I'm here with you begging you to please listen to the experts who are telling you that this will put people in jail who are experiencing pregnancy outcomes that are negative. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee members, for listening.
Thank you. Boy or girl?
That was a baby boy.
All right. Okay. Next we have Liz Edmonds. Oh, okay. I got you. All right. Next, you, ma'am, you've been sitting here. Come on up. And let me know your name. Pastor. Come on down.
Thank you. My name is Janice Lemieux. I live in Marietta, Georgia, and I'm here on behalf of myself and all people of deep faith whose expression of faith has not been represented by the religiosity here today. My faith informs my life and requires that I seek justice for all. A just world in which women have full autonomy under the law requires that women have adequate reproductive health care as well as the authority to make private, personal choices regarding that care. The psalm that says God knew us before we were knit in the womb simply means that God held us in spiritual union. Our souls were one with all that is sacred before we indwelled human form. That gives me comfort that no choice made by a woman to either bear a child or abort a fetus can separate that soul from the divine. Even desired pregnancy can present dangerous health threats. I experienced a life-threatening ectopic pregnancy. I know the physical pain and frightening knowledge that a non-viable cluster of growing cells would kill me without appropriate surgery. Pardon?
If you could wrap it up in conclusion.
Restrictive abortion laws endanger women. To enact laws that force women to carry unwanted or dangerous pregnancies denies them the ability to make private, personal decisions based on their own faith and understanding of God. Abortion prohibition denies women the dignity of full human rights. Criminalizing women and doctors.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to move on. I'm up against a timeline that's fast approaching. We've already...
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming down. Ma'am, you want to come up? What's your name? Michelle Kane. Okay, come on down.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Michelle Kane from Suwanee, Georgia. I'm a mother of 3 daughters in their 20s. And I'm strongly opposing this HB 441. And we have heard from the doctors and nurses, and it hurts Georgia's healthcare system. Georgia already has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the U.S. This bill will make it worse. Doctors and medical professionals will leave Georgia worsen the state health crisis. And I'm a woman of color, and it disproportionately hurts marginalized communities. Women of color, low-income individuals, and those in rural areas will bear the greatest burden. Many already face barriers to healthcare. HB 441 will force them to seek unsafe alternatives. So charging Georgians with murder for a legitimate medical procedure is cruel and hit those hardest who already needed our help. Instead of punishing them, we need to focus on improving our education system, access to health, child care, and access to health care. Thank you.
Statement, if that's okay. I haven't been able to get it through the door yet.
You want us to let them in with it?
Can I go grab it? Thank you.
Hey, find that piece of paper that lady was trying to give her a while ago.
All right. Next up, we're going to have Seth Taylor.
About 30 seconds.
Seth Taylor.
No. If you want to give it to this lady, no ma'am. You just need to give me a clip. Thank you.
And then First Sergeant, I need Seth Taylor.
Sir?
Seth Taylor.
Seth Taylor.
Go ahead. I'll give you a minute.
Thank you. Thank you very much, committee members. I'm reading this on behalf of Allison Kaufman, the Executive Director of Amplify Georgia Collaborative, who is a Georgia resident and a mother of 2 young children. We're here to share our deep concern and alarm that HB 441 has been granted a hearing at all today. This bill would criminalize pregnancy in Georgia. Not only will it allow pregnant people to have abortions to be charged with homicide, it will encourage the state to investigate people for miscarriages, stillbirths, and end access to IVF, a process used by many Georgians to start and grow their families. In a state with one of the highest rates of maternal death and rapidly increasing incarceration of women, HB 441 will have a devastating impact on the most vulnerable among us. Georgians deserve compassion and support, not punishment. On her journey to grow her own family, she experienced 3 miscarriages. Losing a deeply wanted pregnancy is devastating, even in the most supportive of circumstances. Georgia's existing 6-week abortion ban already makes it harder for people like her to receive miscarriage treatment. At her 9-week ultrasound during her first pregnancy, she received the news that no one wants to hear.
If you want to...
Her pregnancy had to end. Okay. We hope that you'll see this bill for what it is, an extreme government overreach being pushed by outside forces. Similar bills are being introduced in multiple states around the country, promoted by a fringe group of organizations whose goal is a nationwide complete ban on abortion with homicide charges for pregnant people and providers alike. 80% of Georgians believe that the government should not interfere in our reproductive health decisions. The belief cuts across partisan divides. Simply put, Georgians do not want HB 441.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. All right. Seth Taylor. All right. Come on down, Miss Taylor. Are you aware we're given a minute each just due to the limitation on time? So if you'll tell us if you're with an organization, where are you from?
Excuse me?
If you will tell us if you're with an organization and where you're from.
Oh, yes. My name is Seth Taylor. I'm Sandy Springs City Captain for the Fulton County Democrats, and I'm from Sandy Springs, Georgia.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. I'm in opposition to HB 441 because I believe it harms all Georgians by undermining fairness, freedom, and practical governance. First, it creates legal ambiguity by defining an unborn child as a human being from fertilization. This could lead to state overreach into personal medical decisions affecting families, doctors, and employers. Miscarriages or emergencies could bring criminal scrutiny with narrow exceptions causing confusion and risk for everyone. Second, it strains our resources, giving the Attorney General prosecution power alongside local officials diverts taxpayer money and effort from urgent issues like crime and education impacting every community. Third, it raises unintended issues, coercion defenses, and civil recovery rights for an unborn child's full value. Could complicate equal protection and flood courts with costly litigation, affecting all who rely on justice. Finally, it divides us. Georgians are diverse in faith and background, but united in tolerance. This bill imposes one view, risking alienation and eroding trust when we need unity for challenges like healthcare and the economy. HB 441 threatens every Georgian's freedom and security. I urge you to reject it for policies that bring us together. Thank you.
All right. You got in under a minute. All right. Okay, everyone, unfortunately, we're up against time constraint. So that'll be our last witness. What I will do is I'm going to allow the author of the bill the last minute and 30 seconds. That's 90 seconds. So if you'll come on down. And I apologize, we had time constraint today and tried to get to as many as we could. Representative Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and remaining members of the committee. With that being said, I'd like to answer one question on IVF that we have gone over several times. First, every human being conceived through IVF is created in the image of God. Basically, you have children born with IVF, or if you were born IVF, your life is equally as valuable as everyone else. We heard repetition over and over, and that God-given value did not attach at the moment of your birth, it began at the moment of your creation, fertilization. While there are many ethical concerns with the IVF industry, including issues around surrogacy, eugenes, and of human life, this bill does not address the entire IVF process. This bill would not prohibit the fertilization of storage and implantation of human embryonic children. It does not apply to natural death. The bill addresses prenatal homicide, assault, and wrongful death. And to the degree that the IVF industry may practice prenatal homicide or assault or deny a preborn human being a proper standard of care, it will affect them. As I said, the lives of those born through IVF are priceless. One of the other quick things to finish, I think I got 13 seconds. We always look at two parts of this that amazes me. A mother that is considered pregnant, if she is murdered and the infant dies, how come we can come back in trial and we can charge the perpetrator the opportunity that killed 2 lives, and we just pick winners and losers here? And that would be one of the things I would ask. And thank you for the time. I really do appreciate the time of the committee and everything going forward.
Thank you. All right, well, we're adjourned.